All right, so we are ready to begin. So this might be an example of what the final product might look like. We're going to focus on creating the letters first. So what you need to do first is you are going to choose a word or your name, and that word must be school appropriate. So if you can't say it or it's not appropriate, please do not write it down because there will be consequences for that, okay? So I have this handout printed for you. It is front and back with some different graffiti style tag letters that you can look at to use from. This is also in Google Classroom as well. So when you do this, the important thing that you want to note is that this is the piece of paper size that you'll be using. You need to fill the page. So when I say fill the page, it should almost touch all four sides, okay? Obviously, it's not going to like fill everything, but it needs to be very close, okay? And then when you do this, you want your letters to be overlapping, okay? So it's kind of like making bubble letters, and if you don't know how to make bubble letters, we'll talk about that here. But what you're going to be doing is try to make those letters connect, and how we outline them and add colors to them will make them stand out a little bit, okay? So I'm just going to use the example of art for this one. And so even though I'm using this as my reference here, you can kind of make it your own style a little bit. So I would just, you know, encourage you, maybe sketch in on a scratch piece of paper in your sketchbook first, or before you just start drawing. Okay, so I have some rough letters started here, and one of the things, I actually kind of like the way that the black outline looks around it, so I'm going to add that to it. But one of the things that you'll see is that it might look a little bit messy to start with, and that's okay because eventually we will be cutting these out, okay? Okay, so from here, once you have it drawn, you can choose how you fill it in. So what is it that you want to use? Colored pencils or your oil pastels are probably going to work best. I'm actually going to opt for, and in this one here, I actually used oil pastel. One of the requirements for this is that you actually need to have changing of colors on each letter, okay? And so you need to have that value shifting. So here's an example of that, okay? So I have the blue going to the green. I have the blue or the purple going to the blue, and so on, okay? You can use as many different colors as you want, but you need to have that shifting, which is exactly what we practiced doing on this sheet here, okay? So how I'm gonna start mine is I'm going to be using oil pastels and blending them together, and I'll probably do a little rainbow thing. I don't know yet, we'll see. But one of the things that you'll need to do is remember, nothing should just be filled in solid. It should all be nice and blended together. So I'm not gonna finish this whole thing right now, but I'll get a little bit started, and you can see that I'm starting by, there's some white spaces there. I'm gonna go back over those here in just a second. Okay, so obviously I have some areas that I could probably blend out a little bit more. This one's a little bit nicer blended, but you get the idea here. Also, one of the things, like this one has a design in it. If you want to put different designs inside of your letters, please, by all means, do that. You know, get creative with that as well. So for instance, I might say, you know what, maybe I want a design coming through here a little bit. Maybe it's with a totally different color. Maybe it's with something else. It's your design, you pick that, okay? Plan that out a little bit. I'll give you some other examples you can look at. Do what you want, okay? But anyways, to finish this off, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of clean up the edges by doing some thick outlining just with a little bit of black. And because it already has color there, I'm gonna kind of outline everything, and I'll just really clean up that design. Okay, so now everything is really cleaned up a little bit. I am going to cut this out. One of the things you might also do is you'll notice that I did it on this one is some of the areas I actually added a little bit of white to kind of make it highlight a little bit. So if you're like, oh, I want this curve to really be emphasized, you can go back over with an oil pastel, the white oil pastel, to kind of make some of those areas emphasized depending on the final look that you are going through for. Okay, so once you have this all filled in, you are ready to cut this out. So now basically everything that has white, we are going to remove. So some of you might decide you're like, oh, this is gonna be a little tricky to get in this area. Maybe you just wanna fill it all in black or whatever color you outline with. That's gonna be a personal preference, up to you. Okay, so just start by cutting around. Okay, so now you can see the only areas I have left are these ones in here. So to get inside those areas, what you're gonna do is just kind of fold it in half, make a little cut, and then stick your scissors inside and then cut around. In the next video then, I'm going to show you some different options for backgrounds that you might do.